Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I just wanted to share with you my top picks for fragrances to melt during the fall time. These are just my personal opinions. I think it's great to kind of get an idea of, you know, what works best for this time of year, especially if you can't get your hands on testers to sniff them out in person yourself. So these, like I said, are just my personal opinion. You know, there's people out there who like to melt whatever they want, regardless of what time of year it is. And I'm not one of those people. I like to melt my fragrances by season. And I'm so happy that it's now starting to get, you know, feel like fall outside, because for the last couple weeks, it was pretty hot here in Ontario, and now it's really starting to feel like fall. Like there's a nice cool breeze. This morning when I was taking my son to school, the leaves were falling off the trees. Like it's just, this is one of my favorite times of year. So I have 8 fragrances to talk about. I tried to narrow it down to 6 with the intent of a 6-pack of bars, but I couldn't bring myself to narrow it down any further. Originally, I had started with 10, and then I managed to get it down to 8. So the first one I want to talk about is Blood Orange Spice, and this is a new release to this fall and winter 2019 catalog, and this is described as candied apple, blood orange puree, and cinnamon stick. And I love this. I think aside from Cider Mill, which is my favorite scent out of the entire catalog, I think if Cider Mill wasn't available, this would be my #1 because I love it. And I've used Scentsy for, I want to say, since about 2014. And I have, with any of the wax bars that I have experience with, I've never come across anything that even compares to this. I think it's so unique. I love it. And I'm not a huge cinnamon person. At least when I first started with Scentsy, I wasn't all about the cinnamon, because to me, I feel like sometimes, especially with the like the Christmas cinnamon scents, they can kind of smell the same to me. It's really hard to kind of tell them apart, like Cinnamon Bear, Christmas Cottage, they all kind of smell the same, but this is different. So candied apple, blood orange puree, cinnamon stick. So I don't get a whole lot of apple, and I have melted this. I haven't melted it in my open concept. I melted this in my bedroom. I put 1 cube in a 25-watt warmer, and it did so well in there. It lasted well over what I normally get out of my wax. Like I leave my warmers on 24/7. I never shut them off. The only time my warmer is ever turned off is if the bulb burns out. So I've never shut them off. And normally I change my wax out every morning. I'll put in a wax in the morning, and then come the next morning, I change it to something else. This I didn't need to change because it lasted, like, I would say about 2.5 days, so well over 48 hours. And yes, it was lighter near the end, but even when I went to change it out, I could still smell it. So I don't get any apple from this. I just get a sweet blood orange with a cinnamon stick, and you can definitely smell both of those notes. Even when warming, the apple didn't really come out. I mean, if I didn't know what was in here, I would say it was a sweet, spicy scent. The blood orange is so good. The cinnamon stick mixes really well with that. I love it. So that is Blood Orange Spice. I think this is a definite fall must-have. So the next one we're going to talk about is Honey Pear Cider. And this is for the people who aren't really a fan of the spices. This is categorized in the fruity section of the catalog, and it is juicy pear, sweet honey, and subtle hints of spices. And it really is very minimal on the spice, if any at all. It's definite honey pear cider. You get the sweetness from the honey, the juicy fruitiness of the pear. And I guess the spices, they have to be in there because it does smell like a cider, but it's not spicy at all. I think it's perfect. I have melted this in my open concept and it did really well, lasted a long time. I have a 20 watt, what's it called? Enchanted Pumpkin, October's warmer of the month. I've got a 25 watt over there. I've got a 15 watt plug-in and an 8 watt element, and I had no issues with scent throw at all. It did really well. So that is honey pear cider. If you're not a cinnamon lover, you're a fruity person, but you still want something geared towards the fall season, this is great. Next, let's talk about Autumn Hearth. And this one is categorized in the spice section. It is apple, cinnamon, and tonka are all about fall. Oh, this is good. This, I would say, is more fruity than spicy. Definite apple and a very light spice. It makes me think of like a Macintosh apple orchard. Like it's fall outside, it's cool, the leaves are falling off the trees, you're walking through the orchard and you stop to pick some apples off the tree. That's kind of what it makes me think of. It's fruity, maybe a little spicy if it's in there. And even when I've warmed this, I don't get a whole lot of spice. If anything, it's just a crisp apple. Oh, it's so good. So that is Autumn Hearth. Next, we're going to talk about First Day of Fall. And this is also in the spice section. And this is another new release for this catalog season. And this is just picked pumpkin, autumn woods, ground nutmeg, and a spicy dash of cinnamon. Now, I don't have experience with warming this one yet. I don't get a whole lot of pumpkin, but as I've kind of rub the wax and warm it up a little bit, it definitely comes out a little bit more, but it's very, very subtle. I can for sure smell the sort of outdoorsy autumn woodsiness. To me, it's more like, it's kind of like the woodsiness, like if it was cool outside and you were taking a stroll through the autumn forest and the leaves are falling off the trees. It's kind of like that kind of vibe to it, whereas you can smell like the woodsiness, but you can also smell like the crunchy autumn leaves. And again, a little bit of a spice. It's not bam in your face. It's definitely there. You can smell the spice, but it's not overpowering. It's not very strong at all. Really, I get like a autumn woodsy, crunchy leaf kind of scent with a hint of a pumpkin and a little bit of a spice. Oh, this is what fall smells like. Like, this is perfect for fall time. Okay, next we are going to talk about Pumpkin Cinnamon Swirl. And this is also in the spice. And to me, this is bakery. There's no spice in here. And the pumpkin is very light. It does come out more when you warm it. I have warmed this in my open concept with the warmers I just mentioned. So it is pumpkin, but it's not like pumpkin marshmallow, if you've ever tried that one. Or porch pumpkin, which is just a straight pumpkin. It doesn't really have that kind of pumpkin vibe to it. It's very bakery pumpkin, and it's lighter. So if you're not a pumpkin person, I wouldn't be turned off by this, because this is almost like if you took like a light pumpkin fragrance and mixed it with vanilla bean buttercream, because you definitely get that sweet bakery icing scent. And again, it's not spicy. I don't get a lot of spice. And to me, I think that they should have categorized this in the bakery section, because it's not spice at all. Sorry if you can hear rattling. She's just laying on her little mat playing with her rattles. So yes, a light pumpkin, not any spice whatsoever, and a lot of vanilla frosting. So that is Pumpkin Cinnamon Swirl. Then we are going to talk about Cider Mill. And this one is also in the spice section. I think this should be like fruity, because this is apples, pumpkins, and spices. And to me, it's almost like honey pear cider, but this is more pear and this is more apple. I don't smell any pumpkin. I get apple cider. It's like apple cider. Slight spice. A lot of sweetness. Oh, it's good. So that is Cider Mill. Definitely my #1 out of the entire catalog. Next, we're going to talk about 2 scents that were available in the spring and summer catalog. And to me, they're more fall-like. I didn't warm either of these in the spring and summer. So we are going to talk about Apple Cherry Strudel. And this is Granny Smith, cherry, and a vanilla drizzle. And this makes me think of fall. This is a sweet apple cherry scent with a creamy vanilla. You can almost get that sort of pastry note. It's definite apple and cherry. And this performs so well. This did so well in my open concept. I used an entire bar throughout my whole open concept. That's my living room, my kitchen, my dining room, and my entryway between the 4 warmers. And it did so well. And this is juicy fruitiness. Like, oh, it's so good. So that's Apple Cherry Strudel. I think that's a great fall fragrance. And especially if you don't like the spice, this is perfect. There's no spice in that. And the last one we're going to talk about for the fall is Welcome Home. This is warm and welcoming with cinnamon and spices. And this is Michael's craft store spice. It's very warm. It's very welcoming. It's very homey. I mean, Welcome Home is the perfect name for it. It's cozy. It's sweet. It's not a bakery cinnamon. It's more of a craft store or a potpourri spice. It's not overpowering. It's not like melt your face off spicy or red hot, you know, clear your sinuses spicy. It's just a sweet spice. Oh, this is the first bar that I ever melted that had a spice in it. This kind of introduced me to the whole, you know, spicy world of Scentsy. This is kind of what made me fall in love with the more cinnamon fragrances, and I will never get tired of this. I actually put a brick of this in my Scentsy club because I love it that much. Oh, I love it. So that is welcome home. So those are my top 8 picks for the fall time. So my next video that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna film shortly after I get my son from school, so that you'll get 2 videos in one day probably. I'm gonna tell you about my top 8 picks for the winter Christmas holidays. So look forward to that, and I will see you guys in that video. Bye guys.